voters can see an alternative to what they're currently using, noisy, gasoline-based outboard motors. We're here to talk about how we can create more jobs right here in Puget Sound, and how Puget Sound might be able to lead the way on a new technology that is all about clean solutions. Just this past week, the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee held a hearing on why gas prices are so high. We in the Northwest are being asked to pay more for high gasoline prices, and across the U.S. they're paying $155 more for fuel prices than last year. And Washington drivers right now are seeing gas prices as high as $3.40. At our hearing this week, one of the points that was made is that even though the United States has become an even larger producer of oil and natural gas, we still are not able to make a dent on the price of fuel that we are seeing as prices are set in the international market. The message from the hearing was, if you want to do something about this problem, diversify off of that fuel source. Well, today we're here to discuss the idea of diversifying in our maritime sector to electric motors. That means solutions that will help bring down fuel costs, lower carbon footprints, reduce our dependence on oil, and give solutions to some of our maritime community. Why are we continuing to focus on this? Well, as we see these high gas prices and oil prices, we realize that the competition at the pump that has been successful with cars may be able to be applied to our maritime industry. That is to say, a decade ago, my colleague Senator Hatch of Utah and I worked with then Senator Obama to pass bipartisan legislation to provide a $7,500 tax credit for plug-in electric vehicles. At the time, there really wasn't even the models were just taking place on that technology. A decade ago, they were just on the drawing board. Now today, around 4 dozen models of electric vehicles are on the market. So we saw the beginning of that revolution. By 2020 now, Ford is saying that they will have over 40 different hybrid and electric offerings for sale. So we're here today to say, if we can participate in that kind of entrepreneurial spirit, why not set that same effort going with the maritime industry? We have a chance here in the state of Washington to pioneer a whole new industry of using electric power on our maritime vessels. So I think the opportunity is right to hear from entrepreneurs like Andy that are creating new products to solve these problems, and to have Puget Sound, which has long had a distinguished history of boat building, to continue to innovate on new technology. Today's boat engines are loud and polluting. Noise pollution is one problem, but with the speed limits here on Lake Union, we all hear about how loud gas-powered boats are, but the even bigger problem is from fuel spills. We know that this discharge from leaky boat motors or boats being refueled can have an impact on Puget Sound and our lakes. We know that over the past decade, 14,000 gallons of oil pollution linked into Puget Sound from recreation and commercial vessels. And nationwide, we've had oil and gas from 2-stroke outboard engines spill over 50 barrels of oil into U.S. waters every year. So today we're going to hear about a solution that might help us. Well, what is the potential size of the market in front of us? There are 2.5 million outboard motors on waters today, which could be replaced by a motor like pure watercraft that they are building. But we need to make sure that these motors are incented if we want to see the rapid adoption that we saw with the automobile industry. That's why I'm working with my colleagues in the United States Senate to have something similar to what we proposed for automobiles, being electric engines for outboard motors. So I can't wait to work with our colleagues here that are here today representing the clean tech industry. I want to thank them for participating in this. Laura Blackmore, from Puget Sound Partnership, Tom Rankin, CEO of Clean Tech Alliance, and Dan Schwartz from the Clean Energy Institute, all working hard to keep diversifying our energy economy into new solutions with promising new industries. continue to look at how this tax credit might be able to be included in legislation at the end of the year as Congress looks at year-end tax credit legislation. There are several tax credits that are already in place, but we think maritime now deserves a seat at the table and could help us address some of our fuel problems right here in Puget Sound and grow jobs for the future. Now I'd like to turn it over to Andy Rebel, the founder of Pure Watercraft.
Thank you very much, Senator Cantwell. I started Pure Watercraft 7 years ago with a goal of renewing everybody's experience on the water, whether it's people in a boat who are hunting or fishing or spending time with family or friends, or people on shore who are fishing or hanging out with their families or sunbathing, or any of us who enjoy the air or the water. It makes much more sense to go fishing when you're not disturbing the fish with a loud motor. It makes more sense to socialize with people when you can hear what they're saying, and it makes for a better day at the water when you're not interrupted by a loud motor going by or the smell of its exhaust. So this incentive, if passed, would make a big difference in how fast these new technologies can be adopted and how quickly we can clean up our waterways and have a better time on the water, fishing, hunting, enjoying time with family and friends, or just being at the water. Thank you. And I would like to introduce Laura Blackmore, who's Deputy Director of the Puget Sound Partnership.
Thanks, Andy. My agency is charged with restoring Puget Sound to health. And for recovery to outpace degradation, we need to encourage and support leaps in technology and innovation like what we're talking about here today. And the Senator's proposal is an excellent way to do that. This proposal will benefit our sound and also the animals that rely on it for life. Many of you, I'm sure, have been following with sadness the story of J35, the orca whale who is pushing around the body of her dead calf over the last 5 days. These majestic creatures are critically endangered, and we know that the top 3 threats to their survival are lack of food, the contaminants in their bodies, and disturbance from vessels, including from noise. Noise from vessels interferes with their ability to communicate. They can't hear each other over the roar of the underwater noise. The noise also makes it difficult for them to find food using their echolocation. And recent studies show that decreasing disturbance from vessels by about 50% and increasing the abundance of their preferred food, Chinook salmon, by 15% would allow the orca population to start growing again. So that's what we need to do. We need to come together as a state to find creative solutions to these many problems so that we, our children, and our children's children can witness the majesty of these great animals on the water. And that's the kind of solution that Senator Cantwell is proposing today, and we thank her for her leadership. Thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce Tom Rankin, the President and CEO of the Clean Tech Alliance.
Thank you very much. The Clean Tech Alliance is a trade association of nearly 300 companies and organizations all over the region, working to create this ecosystem, which at the end of the day means jobs and new technologies that impact on the environment. What we know about this region is it's become in the last 30 years a fantastic region for innovation. Why is that? We've got great innovators here, like Andy and others, in all sorts of areas, from IT to biotech to clean tech. And we have fantastic research institutions. What we don't know as a region is how fantastic those institutions are on the energy side. Not only are we home to the University of Washington's Clean Energy Institute, which Dan leads, and we'll tell you about that in a minute, but there are extraordinary programs at Washington State University, Pacific Northwest National Labs, Idaho National Labs, fantastic, multi-billion-dollar research innovations. You take that innovation, that research, and couple that with the innovators, and you have something extraordinary. In this space, one of the great problems is taking those technologies and getting them into the market. It's different than other places. People are resistant to new technologies, and it's more difficult to get those things into the market. This kind of legislation has an impact in terms of greasing the skids to make that easier to get the technologies out there where they can start beating the other technologies that are not as good. So it's very important legislation that I think will do an awful lot of good. Dan Schwartz is the director of the Clean Energy Institute of the University of Washington, one of the keys of the region. Dan, will you say a few words?
Thank you. Thanks. As Tom said, I direct the Clean Energy Institute, and we are really committed to accelerating the adoption of a scalable and secure clean energy future. So it was really easy to say yes to this invitation to come today, because when you electrify transportation, you create a much more energy efficient power system and train. And as we adopt more solar, more wind, more clean energy sources, that grid gets greener and greener across the entire nation and the world. So this is a great way to accelerate energy efficient technologies in the transportation sector. Now, entrepreneurs like Andy need sort of three things, I think. They need talent. So I was glad that he called early on the UW EcoCar team, where they had expertise in bringing power systems, electrified power systems to vehicles, and they worked with Andy on that. So talent is a really critical part, and he's gone on to hire UW grads in that way. They need, I think, facilities and an investment in infrastructure. And one of the things we've been trying to do through our clean energy test beds are create regional facilities that people can come to so that they don't have to invest all the monies in their own facilities. They can share them across the region. Finally, they need customers, and I'm really happy to say UW was a launch customer for the company, taking a couple of our rowing launches, I think, and running them on clean, low noise electricity. And so customers are a critical part. But to scale up, one of the things we know in engineering is that we need more customer adoption, because engineers and companies like this one learn by doing. They create devices, systems, and as they manufacture more, they get better and better, and they get lower and lower cost. We've seen it in the batteries that go into Andy's boat. We see it in all kinds of technologies. And so incentives, like we're talking about today, get some of the early customers into the marketplace, adopting this so that they get better and better and better, and can move on, like we heard the senator talk about with vehicles. So with that, I'm standing between us and the water, I think. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. I don't know if you have any questions.
Any questions?
Did you guys want to get a close-up of this boat?